The President, please be seated. The court is now in session. During today's sessions, the Chamber will hear the testimony of TCW 389. The Chamber has already informed the parties that the co-prosecutors and lead co-lawyers for the civil parties will have the whole morning today and a session in the afternoon. Court officer is now instructed to report to the Chamber the current status of the parties to the proceedings today. Lord Parry, good morning, Mr. President and Your Honors. All parties to the proceedings today are present, except Mr. Kung Som On, the National Co-Counsel for Mr. Kyo Sompan, who is absent due to his personal commitment. Mr. Nunji is present in his holding cell, and this based on the decision by the trial chamber. He is allowed to observe the proceedings downstairs due to his health concern. TCW 389 is the witness today. The witness is present in the waiting room. This witness has confirmed that to the best of the witness' knowledge, the witness is not in a relationship with an accused or a civil party in this case file. This witness also took the oath on Tuesday, the 30th of April 2013. The witness is assisted by jury counsel Mom Rathir. There is no reserved witness today. Thank you, Mr. President and Your Honors. The President, thank you. Court officer is now directed to call the witness and the jury counsel into the courtroom, please. The President, good morning, Mr. Witness. What's your name, please? Response, I am Lim Sat. Question, Mr. Lim Sat, how old are you? Response, I am 54 years old. Question, Mr. Lim Sat, where do you live? Response. I live in Posat Province, Bakan District, Bang Bat, Kondal, Commune. The President, Mr. Lim Sat, please be reminded that before you respond to questions, observe some pause. Wait until you see the red light being activated on your mic before you proceed to respond to questions. Otherwise, your messages could not be conveyed properly. AV unit will automatically activate your mic, so you don't need to worry about this button, and only when you see the red light that you can proceed to respond. Question: what do you do for a living? Response: I am a rice farmer. Question: what's your parents' names? Response: my father is Tia, my mother is Nam. Question: what's your wife's name and how many children do you have? Response: my wife is Chen. I have 7 children, 4 daughters, 3 sons. The President: thank you, Mr. Lim Sat. According to the report by the greffier of the trial chamber, to the best of your knowledge, you are not in the relationship with an accused or a civil party in this case. Is that true? Response: yes, it is true, Mr. President. The President: thank you. According to the same report, you already took the oath. You took the oath on the morning of Tuesday, the 30th of April 2013 in this court complex. Is that true? Response: yes, it is. Thank you. Now, the Chamber would like to notify you of your right under Rule 28, right against self-incrimination of witnesses. As a witness, you may object to making any statement that might tend to incriminate you. In other words, you have the right not to incriminate yourself. During these proceedings, the Chamber have assisted with the West unit to make sure that you have a jury counsel where you can consult with. For example, when you feel your responses may be self-incriminating, and you can enjoy this right fully. And as the witness, the testimony that you are to give shall relate to what you had knowledge of, and that you have to respond to all questions by the judges of the bench or parties to the proceedings, except questions that you may feel that in your responses the content of which would be self-incriminating. And as the witness, you shall tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, based on your knowledge and experiences. Mr. Lamsat, have you ever given interview or any interview to the co-investigating judges of the Office of Co-Investigators? If so, where have these interviews been conducted, and how many times did you give such interview? Response: I had given interviews to them on 3 occasions. The President, 3 occasions or 2 occasions? Response: they went there on 3 occasions when I gave the interviews. The President, do you still remember where these interviews took place? Did they take place at the same time? Sorry, same place. Response: they took place at 2 different places. The President, where did these interviews take place? Response: I have not taken the record of the dates, but it was at the coal office and also at my home. The President, before you appear before this chamber, have you read or reviewed or been read out the statements you gave before the co-investigators of the Office of Co-Investigating Judges to refresh your memory? Response: yes, I still remember the statements I provided. The President, have you read or reviewed the statements you once gave to the co-investigating judges? You have been here a few days already. My question to you is whether you have read the statements again or not. Response: yes, I have, briefly, Mr. President. Question: to the best of your recollection, are the statements or the accounts in the statement you have just reviewed consistent with those you gave to the investigators back then? Response: I remember some of the accounts and I forget some because it was a long time ago and I have not paid attention to take note of these statements. The President, thank you, Mr. Lamsat. During today's proceedings, as the Chamber has already informed you, the Westsu unit has provided you with a jury counsel, Mr. Mom Rathia, who is now sitting next to you, so that you can consult with him. And we have received information from the Westsu unit through the greffier that you have some problem with hearing, and in other words, you have hearing aid. So to assist you, with this, we need to readjust the volume of the headsets so that you can hear the message very clearly. And we also note that you have some health concerns, and we have discussed this to make sure we can assist you. And you indicate that you may need to visit the toilet rather often. That doesn't matter. You may the chamber doesn't mind you requesting it so that you can go to the bathroom to relieve yourself because that's what the chamber can assist you. So just tell the chamber whenever you would like to go to the bathroom, then you will be allowed to go there immediately. And the session will not be very long. We hope you will be released soon. The President continues. Now we would like to hand over to the co-prosecutors to put questions to this witness first. You may now proceed. National Co-Prosecutor. Thank you, Mr. President. And good morning to you, Mr. President, and Your Honors, and good morning to parties to the proceedings, and good morning to you, Mr. Lim Sat. I am Seng Bun Kieng, a national co-prosecutor at the Office of Co-Prosecutors, along with my colleague, Mr. De Lai Sak. We have some questions. And the questions are meant to ascertain the truth, the events that happened during the period of democratic Cambodia. Mr. Lim Sat, in the statements you gave before the co-investigators, your first interview in particular, you indicated that you were a soldier since 1971 until 1975 in Platoon 202. I am referring to document E3/364, Khmer ERN 0242422, English 00250759. French ERN 00282197. Mr. President, with your leave, we would like this document to be handed over to the witness for examination. The President, you may proceed, and court officer is now directed to bring the document to the witness. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Lim Sat, can you tell the chamber, please, where were you based, and what did your battalion do from 1971 until April 1975? Response. From 1975 onwards, we were in Posat. And by 1975, when the country was at peace, we were stationed in Posat. Question. Mr. Lim Sat, my question was about you working during 1971 to 1975. We would like to know where you worked or where your unit would be located. Response. We were stationed at Sector 7. Thank you. Question. During 1971 and all the way to 1975, what did your unit do? Response. We engaged in the battlefields at the forefront at Sector 7. That's our main task. Thank you. Question. You said you were engaged in the forefront, the battlefront, the front battle. Did you also engage in fighting with London soldiers? Response. I engaged in the battlefields when we had to fight with the opponents along with our comrades from other zones. Thank you. Question. If possible, could you tell the chamber, please, when did you engage in the fighting with the London soldiers? Response. That started from 1972 all the way to 1975. Question. During such fighting with the London soldiers, were the soldiers on the opposing side ever been arrested? If so, how were they treated? Response. Yes, we arrested some of them, but we did not do anything to them. We had to send them back to the rear. We even helped treat the wounded by helping inject some medicine to cure them. Question. You said that people would be sent to the back or to the rear. So can you be more specific on this? Which rear you were referring to? Response. When I said they were sent to the rear, I would like to say that they were sent to the village, rather to the heads of the district who were in charge of the rear, and where these people could be received and treated. Thank you. Question. Now I would like to ask you about the chain of command. You worked in the Northwest Zone. Can you tell the chamber how orders were received or how people communicated? Response. In terms of orders, for example, if we had to attack the enemy in any particular location, then we would receive orders from the upper echelon to the zone, who rendered these orders to our unit. So we received order from our superior, and then our superior would render the orders to us, then we carried out the orders. Question. In your statement before the co-investigating judges, you also mentioned that from 1971 to 1975, Taki was the zone military chairman, and I am referring to the same document, document E3/364, under ERN in Khmer 00242422 and English ERN 00250759, French ERN 00282197. Who did Taki report to? Response. He reported to the center. Question. Were you aware whether or how the communication would be channeled from the zone to the center and from the center to the zone? Response. Orders were received through the leaders of the Khmer Rouge. Question. To the best of your recollection, when you started working as a soldier in 1971 to 1975, did you know who were the leaders of the Khmer Rouge? Response. I did not know very much, but I believe that the senior leaders who were include Mr. Khieu Samphan, who was in charge of the military in Cambodia. Question. Can you please be more precise on this? You said that Mr. Khieu Samphan was in charge of military in Cambodia. What did he do at that time? Response. I don't know his roles very well, but I am aware that he was in charge of the military. Question. Apart from Mr. Khieu Samphan, were you aware of other people who were the senior leaders of the Khmer Rouge? Response. I don't know, because in 1975 it was the time that I learned about Khieu Samphan, and that after that period I knew that he remained the person in charge of the army. Question. When the Khmer Rouge Revolutionary Army attacked cities during the war between 1971 and 1975, how were people treated in the areas affected by the fighting? Response. On the 17th of April 1975, I knew that people in Phnom Penh had to be evacuated and they had to be transferred to the countryside.
Thank you for answering this question, but I would like to know the period in which you were engaged in the war from 1971 to 1975. Did you ever know that the Khmer Rouge could capture any city or village at the time, to your knowledge? Response. From 1971 to 1975, I was in Posat, in Liech district, and they actually captured Liech district to my knowledge. And in Bat Nambong province, they capture Kokolo and Kuchedei. These were the locations I know that the Khmer Rouge had captured. Question. To your knowledge, when did you observe whether or not markets were in operation at that time? In other words, did the Khmer Rouge allow people to sell things in the market? Response. No, market were closed at the time. Question. Can you elaborate further? My question to you earlier was that whether the Khmer Rouge allow people to open market following its capture. Response. No, all markets were closed immediately after the Khmer Rouge captured those locations. Question. How about the location under the control of the Khmer Rouge? Were there any place or location where the Khmer Rouge forced people to assemble in any particular location or join cooperatives? Response. I know it. Those people who were evacuated from Phnom Penh and arrived in Posat province, they had to join cooperatives. Question. Concerning the region where you stayed, do you happen to know when the cooperative was first established? Response. Cooperatives were first established in 1976. Thank you. Question. A bit earlier, you told the court that there were evacuations. Do you know when Posat was taken over by the Khmer Rouge? Response. They actually captured Posat province on the 17th of April 1975 too, but in my location they actually took control of it at around 11 o'clock in the morning. You said your location was captured by the Khmer Rouge by 11 in the morning. Can you expand on that a little bit further? Once it was captured by the Khmer Rouge, did you know that there was any struggle, any fighting or resisting from the previous authorities in your location? And if there was such fighting, how long did it take to capture this location? Response. It took the Khmer Rouge some 3 to 4 years resisting back and forth before they captured the location where I stayed. Thank you. Question. To your recollection, do you know how many Khmer Rouge soldiers were involved in fighting to capture Posat province? Response. I only knew the number in my sectors. It was the 2 battalions, Battalion 202 and 201. And they also joined with the Northwest Zone military as well. So, and there was a brigade joining my force as well. Question. Do you recall Battalion 201? How many soldiers were in this battalion, and who was the commander of this battalion? Response. Battalion 201. Mut was the commander. Deputy commander was Tan. Thank you. Question. Is it fair to say then that if you observe the Khmer Rouge forces, do you know under whose command did the Khmer Rouge capture the city of Posat? Response. It was under the command of the zone. Taklain was the commander from the zone committee. Question. Prior to capturing Posat province, do you know a fort by the name of Tul Pochray? Response. Well, Tul Pochrai was the battlefield. It was a place where I struggled against the opposing force over there. Question. So you were responsible over there as well in the battle, according to your statement earlier. How many Lonol soldiers, to your knowledge, were positioned over there? Response. I do not know exactly how many there were from Lonol side. I can only guess that there could have been around 100 or little over 100. Question. Do you recall who the leader was in Tulpochrai battlefield? Response. Well, under the Lonol side, to my recollection, Pal was the commander. He was with the rank of captain, and Run was his deputy. That's what I can recall. Thank you. Now, I would like to focus your attention on Posat provincial town. Do you know what happened to the civilians in the Posat provincial town once this city was captured by the Khmer Rouge? What happened to the civilians in the city center? Response. It was in 1976. I was transferred to a mobile unit. I was tasked to dig canals. I stayed with the mobile unit. Question, Mr. Saad. Actually, I would like to know when the Khmer Rouge troops took over the provincial town of Posat. I would like to know whether or not you knew what happened to the civilians in the provincial town of Posat. Response. When I first arrived in Posat provincial town, people had already been evacuated. They had already left in different directions from the city center. Question. Can you make it clearer? Do you know how many days after the liberation were people evacuated from the provincial town? Can you please be precise on this? Response. Following the liberation in 1975, I think people were all evacuated out of the town within 3 weeks or so. Question. To your knowledge, do you know who was in the authority to decide on the evacuation of people out of the provincial town at that time? Do you know? Response. It was the order from the zone committee, and I believe that they also received the order from the authority in Phnom Penh. Question. Do you know the reason why people were required to leave Pusat provincial town following the capture of this city by the Khmer Rouge forces? Response. I learned from others that if people were to be kept in the city or in the markets, there would be some infiltrating forces among the civilians. That's why people were required to leave the city to different locations in the countryside. Thank you. Question. Do you know who was in the authority to execute the evacuation of people? Response. I do not know whether or not the military were involved. I only learned that there was order from the zone and sector committees. Question. So, aside from the military involvement, do you happen to know who were involved in ordering the evacuation of people? Response. Takon from the zone and Tasot from the sector. Question. How about your unit? Were you tasked to execute this evacuation plan as well? Response. I was in the lowest rank, or my unit was in the lowest rank rather, and the execution was handed down from the upper authority. Question. Do you know whether there was any specific instruction given to you, your unit, in particular in relation to the evacuation of the people? Response. I do not know. It was the decision made at the upper level. I was in the civilian force, so I do not know what the decision was at the upper level. Question. A bit earlier, you told the court that your unit was the lowest in the rank in charge of that location. So, were your unit armed? Or in other words, were you allowed to use weapons in order to make sure that people leave the city? Response. Yes, we were armed, and we were actually armed, but when we were guarding people along the street. Question. Do you know where the people were being evacuated to at that time? Response. Well, all people were evacuated out of Pusat provincial town, and then they went in different direction, and particularly down south along National Road number 5. Thank you. So I would like to now turn to another topic in relation to Tulpo. According to your statement with the investigator of the OCIJ, you mentioned about the meeting of the Khmer Rouge cadre, and you receive instruction in relation to the gathering of the police and soldiers of Lon Nol administration in Pusat province. Concerning the first meeting, actually in question and answer number 4 of your second interview with the Office of Co-Investigating Judges, document D 232/65, you made mention that the battalion, the chairman of the companies, battalions and regiments were invited to join the meeting led by Ta Nhâm, the zone committee, and Ta Sut, the sector committee. And you said that the substance of the meeting was to advise the commanders of the Khmer Rouge that the soldiers and police from Lon Nol soldier, those who are bearing certain rank, they would be killed. We could not keep these people, otherwise they would be rebelling against us in a later date. So that is what you told the investigator of the OCIJ. Mr. President, I would like to seek your leave to have this document handed over to the witness. The President Court Officer is now instructed to bring the document to the witness for his examination. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Witness, in this particular meeting, who said that soldiers and policemen from the Lon Nol administration had to be killed? Do you recall? Response: it was the order from the zone committee. Question: do you know the name of the person from the zone committee? Response: Con verse. Ta Nhâm and Ta Con were. Question: did both of them mention anything concerning the authority or instruction they received from any level in the authorities that the policemen and soldiers from Lon Nol administration had to be executed? Response: no, they never told us about that. Question: again, in your statement with the Office of Co-Investigating Judges, you also mentioned a man by the name of Ta Sut. Which sector was Ta Sut in charge of? Response: he was in charge of Sector 7. Question: can you tell the court in Sector 7 how many districts subordinate to this sector? Response: there were 3 districts: Koko, was one of them. Kandiang district and Prem Lu district. Thank you. Do you recall how many regiment commanders or battalion commanders were present during the meeting? Response. I only knew that there were attendance or presence of people from the zone and the sector. In your first interview with the Office of Co-Investigating Judges, document E3/364, here and in Khmer 00242422, English 00250759, French 00282197. You said on about 19th or 20th of April 1975, I received orders to assemble the soldiers and policemen from low to high rank who had connections to the Lonol era and kill them at Tulpo Chray in Kandiang district. Was that mentioned in the meeting chaired by Tasot and Nyam? Was it during this meeting that you received the instruction that the policemen and soldiers from Lonol era be killed at Tulpo Chray? Did you hear that discussion during that meeting? Response. Actually, at that time, they assembled those soldiers and policemen, and I did not realize that those people were destined to be killed. I was actually guarding along the street. I was with the trucks at that time on the street. Prosecutor, well, I am going to dwell on this matter later on, but let me follow up a bit on this issue. Who instructed that Tulpo Chray was to be the location to assemble Lonol soldiers and policemen? Who issued this order that this particular place was the assembly place for soldiers and policemen of the Lonol era?
Response. The order was rendered from the zone commander. Thank you. Question. I would like you to now tell the chamber the time at which the meeting was convened under the chairmanship of Ta Nyam. In your first interview before the co-investigators, document E3/364 under Khmer ERN 00242422, English ERN 00250759, and French ERN 00282197. 2197. You state you received order on about 19th or 20th of April 1975, and that in your same statement, rather the second statement under document D 232/65 and the question and answer number 4, you said this meeting was held 3 days before, rather after the liberation of 17th of April 1975, just about 4 to 5 days after the liberation of Phnom Penh and Posat. Now, in that meeting, you mentioned that order was surrendered by Tanyam. We would like to know how soon was this area was captured by the Khmer Rouge after that meeting. Response: Posat was captured a week after that meeting. Question. Now I would like to ask you a few questions concerning the police and soldiers of Lon Nol who assembled, and you stated this before the co-investigators. My question to you is, how former Lon Nol officials and soldiers were identified in that meeting? Response: we were told that the soldiers and officials would be gathered to attend a study session, and after the session, people were allowed to resume their functions. For example, whatever they did in the past, they would then resume the same tasks. Question: do you know when this meeting, when Lon Nol soldiers and officials gather, take place? Response: I don't remember this very well. It happened a long time ago, but I can say that it was about 1 or 2 weeks after the 17th of April 1975. Question: so that everyone is clear, can you please explain to us a meeting chaired by Tanyam and Tasot and another meeting where former Lon Nol and officials attended? Because we believe that your explanation will be very helpful. Can you tell the chamber when was this meeting where Lon Nol soldiers and officials met take place? Response: it was about 1 or 2 weeks after the liberation, after the 17th of April 1975, when the meeting was convened. Co-prosecutor, that was the meeting where former Lon soldiers and officials attended. What about the meeting chaired by Tanyam and Tasot? Where did that meeting take place? Response. That meeting was convened after the liberation of 1975. A few days after that, this meeting was convened. Thank you. I would like to also refer to your statement in your first interview before the investigators. Document E3/364, Khmer ERN 00242422, English 00250759, and French ERN 00282197. In that you said you were ordered to wait for the trucks where people could be gathered to the provincial hall. All people were gathered across Posad province, and there were about 30 to 40 trucks of people were at that place. Now my question to you, were you or your colleagues at the provincial hall when these Lono soldiers arrived? Response. I was not at the provincial hall. I was at a different location. Question. You said you were at a different location. Can you say precisely how far were you from the provincial hall? Response. It was about 5 kilometers from that place. Question. You said there were 30 to 40 trucks. Did you see those trucks? Response. Yes, I was seeing the trucks because I was on a guard on duty along that road when the trucks passed. Question. How big were the trucks? Response. They were the military trucks. They were somehow like any kind of JMC truck. The truck can accommodate at least 30 people. Thank you. Now, in the same topic concerning the trucks, do you know whether these trucks were the same trucks that transported the soldiers to the provincial hall and then brought them to Tulpocheri? Response. Yes, indeed, these were the same trucks. The trucks that transported those people to Tulpo Chray. Question. Again, to be clear, were these trucks used to transport them to the provincial hall? Response. Yes, they were. The trucks transported them from provincial hall all the way to Tulpo Chray. Thank you. I would like to refer to your interview. Again, this the second interview of yours, document D232/65, question and answer number 3. You mentioned about the meeting, that the meeting was convened at Provincial Hall, and where London military and policemen were convened. You said Tanyum and Takan, the Northwest Zones committees, rather Takon, the Northwest Zones committees, and Tasot, the sector committee, held a meeting in Provincial Hall with London military and policemen who were just liberated from Posat province. And the content of this meeting was that the zone committee stated that all people with ranks had to go to study first, and upon returning from the study, Angkar would allow them to wear the same ranks as they did before. And under another document, E3/364, Khmer ERN 00242422, English ERN 00250759, and French ERN 00282197, you also say this. These people were cheated. They were tricked, as they were promised to obtain their previous ranks in the meeting. My question to you is, did you attend that meeting personally? Response. No, I didn't. Thank you. You were not in the meeting. How could you know about the content of this meeting? Response. I learned this from my commander, the commander of my regiment. Question. What did he tell you? Response. I was told that the police and soldiers were gathered to attend the meeting because they're afraid that these police and soldiers would revolt against the Khmer Rouge. Question. Can you tell the chamber the name of the man behind the regimental committee? Response. He was Mr. Hun, and his deputy was Moll. Question. Commander Hun As you said, the commander of regiment told you about this. But did he mention any names of the soldiers or policemen who would be allowed to resume their previous ranks in the meeting? Response: I learned that people who were at the level of the center would be allowed to resume these ranks. Question: were you aware whether this meeting convened in the complex of the provincial hall, or was it held outside? Response: the meeting was conducted in the Posat provincial hall. Question: how many people of the former Lonol police and soldiers attended this meeting? Do you know about this? If not, say so. Response: I don't know. Thank you. The next question is about the transportation of these former Lonol police and soldiers to Tuolpochri. Indeed, they were told earlier on that they would be attending a study session. How were these people transported from the provincial hall? Response: when I was at that place, I saw them being loaded onto the trucks. 2 trucks would be allowed to leave the place at a time. Question: during the course of transporting the soldiers and the police, where was your unit stationed? Response: we were stationed in Kandiang district, 3 kilometers from that place, but about 10 kilometers from Tuolpochri. Question: you said from the place you were stationed was about 10 kilometers, as compared to Tuolpochri, and that's 3 kilometers from the place you stationed. But I would like to be more precise. Can you tell us how far was it from the place you stationed to Tuolpochri? Response: from the place we were stationed was about 3 kilometers. From the provincial hall to my place was about 3 kilometers, but from my place to Tuolpochri it was about 10 kilometers. Question: you said you were about 3 kilometers from provincial hall of Posat. In which commune were you in at that time? Response: it was in Kandiang district, Ta Snok commune. Question. The reason I asked this question to you because a few days ago a witness before the chamber testified. Mr. Ong Chat stated that Lono soldiers who were transported from Provincial Hall were transported to Po village before they were transported to Tul Pochre. Does this account reflect your memory of what happened in those days? Response. Yes, it does, because Po commune was on the same road leading to Tul Pochre. Correction from the interpreter, not Po commune, Po village. Question. Was Po commune, rather district, and the place where you were stationed was in the same commune? Response. They were in the same commune. Question. Was the unit stationed in Po village the same unit as yours? Response. There was only one unit, my unit alone, that was stationed in this vicinity. Thank you. Question. I would like to cite your statement in your interview before the co-investigators under document D232/65 under question and answer number 5. You said you received orders from radio communication from Tul Pochre that more people had to be transported to Tul Pochre. My question now is, how did you communicate through radio communication with the Khmer Rouge soldiers at Tul Pochre? Response. People at Tul Pochre Fort communicated through radio communication to us, asking us that more truckloads of soldiers and police had to be transported there. Question. Were you the person who was operating this radio communication with the Khmer Rouge soldiers at Tul Pochre, or were you hearing or heard this conversation when your colleagues was on radio communication? Response. My commander was talking on the radio communication and I heard this. Question. So, in general, it was your commander who was operating this radio communication, talking to the Khmer Rouge soldiers at Tul Pochre, and you overheard the conversation. Is that my understanding of your statement? Response. That is correct. Question. Were you aware of who was in charge of operating the radio communication at Tul Pochre, and what was his rank? Response. He was from the zone. He was in the zone committee. Question. When you refer to zone committee, do you remember his name? Response. He was Ta Klang. He was the military commander for the zone. Question. Was Ta Klang the commander of soldiers at Tuol Pochri, or was he subordinate to other commanders? Response. He was in charge of the zone committee commander, and he was there on behalf of the zone. Question. How many people were there at Tuol Pochri at that time on the Khmer Rouge side? Response. I'm not quite sure I know the exact number of them, but there were roughly 50 to 60 people. Co-prosecutor, Mr. President, should we observe some break or should we continue? The President, thank you, Mr. Co-prosecutor and witness. It is appropriate moment already for the adjournment. The chamber will adjourn for 20 minutes and the next session will be resumed by 10 to 11. Court officer is now directed to assist the witness during the adjournment and have him return to the courtroom by 10 to 11. The court is adjourned.
សូមអញ្ជើញក្រោកឈរ